Hello and welcome back to RareRoo Crafts. I'm Sarah and today I'm going to carry on with my Christmas lantern. Now it is finished, Christmas is finished, Christmas has passed, but I've decided to finish it anyway because I will be able to bring it out again next year, and it's looking quite cute. So this is the actual lantern. Move you up a little bit, if I can get my camera to go up a little bit. So this is the actual lantern that we've been working on. So this was the black plastic lantern that I have aged and dry brushed to look like a rusty old metal. And then it's got the frosted glass panels, which were the panels that had got the pictures of the witches and things on. That, again, we have frosted up. I also took the candle from the inside of the lantern and I put some hot glue all down the edges of it and gave it all a couple of coats of gesso and then some buff titanium. I am going to finish this this bit off, and then I think it's just going to be a case of sort of popping it all together. I'm going to make some flowers to go on the inside, try and get the lights a bit better. It is dark here, so is that less shiny if I turn it over the other way? Yes, I'll have it that way up. Okay, so what I want to do is I've got a few sort of things in mind. Firstly, I want to put something in the base of my lantern, and for that I picked up some of this natural dried moss. They sell it at Christmas time in Home Bargains. It's around about 80p for a packet. I had some last year. I just can't actually lay my hands on it at this moment, so I've picked up another one and I will use this one. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this out, and I've got my hot glue gun which is heating up. It's not quite hot enough yet, I don't think. I might just use some beacon while my hot glue gun's heating up. So I've got some beacon 3-in-1 glue, and I'm just going to put some of that just scattered about on the base of my lantern. So all I'm doing is literally just spreading bits of glue, and I'm not really thinking about it. I want it to be really random, and I want it to sort of catch at the edges as if it's sort of growing up the cracks and the crevices of the lantern. So I am just making sure to get the glue on those bits there, and then I'm just going to take the moss and I'm just going to pat it down into that glue like so. Now I'm not going to sort of get it how I finally want it to start with, because to start with I just want it to stick. I just want a nice carpet of that glue in there, and then I can sort of trim bits out and do what I want with it once it's done. Like that. And then I might even add a little bit just sort of coming down the front of the lantern like so. So again, I'm just going to put a little bit of the beacon and then just press bits of the dried moss into where the glue is wet. Like so. Okay, and then I'm going to just let that glue dry. Right, I'm going to move the lantern out the way for now, and bring my candle back. So what I want to do is I'm just going to make some of those drips drip all the way down to the base. And what I want to do is not have this perfect circle at the bottom, because if you think about a candle, when it melts, you sort of end up with a bit of a puddle of wax all around the bottom of your candle. So that's the look that I'm sort of going for at the moment. And I'm just going to do that by adding in big drips of this hot glue and then letting that drip down the side of the candle, and it will create this pool. And I've stood it on this silicone mat so that once that's happened I can peel it off and then I can paint it. So that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm just going to work my way round this candle, picking up from some of the drips and bringing them down to the bottom of the candle, and then putting enough glue there that it drips. It's quite cold in here. I'm in the conservatory and it's actually a bit nippy today, so well, this evening, so it's not dripping as I'd like it to. So I'm just going to go and put you on pause while I do the rest of that, because I'm going to let it heat up between presses of the trigger and let the glue get really hot before I put it onto the candle, because the first one that I did dripped and created the pool really beautifully at the bottom, but the sort of the last couple that I've done, they're not dripping, they're not sort of rolling down the side of the candle as I want them to, and that's just because the glue's getting too cold and it's setting before it can actually hit the silicone mat. So I shall be back shortly when I've done that. Okay, so I've put that on, I've left it to cool, and now I can peel that away. Any bits that I don't like, that are sort of a bit jaggedy, if I hold the heat tool to it long enough, it will melt those frizzly bits away and make it look a bit more sort of smooth and finished like wax looks. So it won't look like hot glue, it'll look like wax, which is obviously the look that I'm going for. Just hold it long enough to it'll smooth it all out like so. There we go. Now all I've got to do with that is coat it all again with the gesso, particularly this bit down the bottom here obviously, and paint it again with the buff titanium, which is the colour I'm using for the candle, and then that'll be the candle ready to go. So I'll do that off camera so I don't bore you to tears. And I'm also making some flowers. So I'll stand the candle off to one side for a moment. So I've just made this poinsettia, which is going to go up against the candle, and I think that's going to give a really lovely Christmassy vibe to the candle. So to make these flowers, to make these poinsettias, I make them the same way I make all my other poinsettias, but I've got a much bigger die. So I'm going to go for this size for these ones, and I've actually cut these out of wrapping paper. This is it's brown paper, like brown parcel paper, but it's coloured stuff, and Hobbycraft were doing it for presents and things this year, but I've picked it up to make some flowers with, and it'll be fine for this sort of thing because it's going to be, you know, glued into place. It's going to be held within the structure of the lantern. I wouldn't use this for making flowers for cards because it does crush quite easily. They make lovely flowers, but it does crush quite easily. So I'm taking 2 large red and 1 slightly smaller red and 2 of the larger in green. And all I'm doing is on the coloured side, I'm taking a reasonably large ball stylus and I'm just rubbing up and down the centre of the leaf like that, or the petal, whatever you want to call it, and then flip it over, and with the smaller end just run up and down from the tip to the centre with the stylus, so then it's like this sort of crumbled up thing. Lay it out so the colour side is up again and just roll around that centre slightly, and that will give us this shape for our petals. So I'm going to do the same thing to all 5 of the petals. So now that I've got those all shaped, I'm going to take, for the green ones, I've got some Distress Oxide in Forest Moss. I'm just taking a bit on a sponge and I'm just going over it. I'm not being, you know, too careful about where it's going. I'm just sort of roughly aiming for the edges. And it's just really to put a bit of variation of colour in there. So that when it dries, it's not all just, you know, one flat colour. It just helps it to look a bit more realistic. And then for the red ones, I've actually got ground espresso oxide, because I found that the reds were just too subtle, you know, particularly when it sort of dried off. So because I'm wanting that vintagey look, because obviously that's the whole sort of vibe of the piece, I didn't want anything that gave it too much vibrancy. If anything, I just wanted to knock the vibrancy of the red back very slightly. So again, I'm just going around. This time I happen to have one of the sponges for it. I'm just going around the edges like so. And then it's just a case of assembling these elements. So obviously they are still a bit wet, but that's okay because the glue is just going in the centre. So a bit of white glue in the centre, and then offset the petals and push them down. And then I want the two larger of the reds, and again a bit of glue in the centre, and offset the petals, bit of glue in the centre, and offset those petals, bit of glue in the centre, and offset the petals of the smallest one. Now I'm going to take my ball stylus and I'm going to give that, with the larger head, a good squish, and just give that a hold for a second. That's going to help all of that glue to take, but it's also creating that nice divot in the centre there. And that's where I'm going to put my central piece. So I've got these little, I think they're actually bead caps. I got them from AliExpress ages and ages and ages ago. They've got a little hole in the centre. All I'm going to do is take a pokey tool, nail dotting tool, and I'm just going to ream that hole out a little bit more by pushing it all the way up. And all that's doing is just making that hole in the centre just that little bit bigger, just so I can get a few more stamen in there. So then I've got a load of 1mm gold stamen. So I've just cut them in half, and all I'm going to do is feed them into the hole. Now I'm a bit klutzy at the moment, my hands aren't doing what they're supposed to do, so I find that it's a little bit fiddly, and for me I find that threading them in one at a time sort of works best. And I'll get them through and then sort of pull them down to the side, thread another one in, pull it down to the side, and just keep doing that until I literally cannot get any more stamen into the hole. And I like it to look nice and full, so, you know, I will sort of keep going and keep going while ever I can fit the stamen down there. And I do find this sort of holding them off to one side helps me to thread them through. Almost there. Give them a whole bit of a pull down there. Probably get another couple in there. Like that. Ooh. See if I can get one more in. I don't know. Yeah, one more. Oops. Dropped it. One more in there. Okay. And then all I'm going to do is take them from the back end and just pull them all down so that they're all pulled as far down into that centre, down towards the hole as I can get them. It does take a little bit of faffing about and fiddling about, and you could just use the stamen, you don't have to use the metal piece. I just really like that finish. Then I'm going to turn that upside down so that all the threads are up in the air, and I'm just going to put a small bit of hot glue just around the base of those threads and just give it a moment to start to cool. Pull on all those threads again so that they're all down there. Give them a bit of a twist, and now that that glue has gone cooler and I can touch it, I'm just going to hold on to it and twist, and that's just going to stick all of those stamen in place, and I've not got to worry about losing them as I'm sticking it into my flower. So I've just trimmed the excess cotton away from those, and I'm just going to put some hot glue in the centre of my flower, and I'm going to push my stamen into place. And again, you could use your pokey tool to help. Don't push too hard, because the gold bit on the stamens is actually, it'll crumble if you push on stamens too hard. They do actually crumble, because it's like a powdery mix thing that it's a bit like plaster of Paris that they put on the ends of the stamens. And there we go, and then you can sort of shape it back up again around your centrepiece, and there we've got the flower. So I'll probably do some other types of flowers and some maybe smaller flowers, so that I've got a selection of them. I'm going to go and paint the candle, and then I will come back and we will put the whole thing together, and hopefully we'll be able to call it a day. Okay, it's the next day, and my camera ran out of charge last night, so I just sort of left it where it was. We have got this far with the lantern, so the lantern's all painted and ready to go. I've put the moss all down the bottom there, and we did the additional wax on the candle last night, so that now has got its sort of drippy wax finish down the bottom, so that it doesn't look quite so straight. And then I've painted all of that with the buff titanium, and then I've just given it a bit of a dry brush with a little bit of this mother of pearl paint, and that's just to give it a little bit of that sort of luster that a candle would have, that sort of waxy finish, and also just to give it a little bit of highlighting on the colours. So that's my candle. And now I'm just going to pop everything together, I think. I've got some fir cones that we collected a while ago when we went out for a walk that I dried on the radiator. I've got some of the flowers that I made. I've got some holly leaves that I've previously made. There is a tutorial on my channel for the holly leaves. I've grabbed some of this, it's almost like a sort of buffalo plaid type ribbon that I've got in my stash, because I couldn't find any tartan. I wanted tartan, but I haven't got any. And then I've just found a few little embellishment bits out, so a couple of bells and this lovely star. So, oh my goodness, I've just got to show you this very quickly. Look at what my daughter's just brought me. Merry Christmas! Super hot chocolate. I'm going to enjoy that. Can't talk now because I've got biscuit in my mouth. I might just have to pause a moment. That was yummy. I had to just stop and enjoy that. I had to have a few moments just to enjoy it. Okay, now I'm not sure about the camera angle here because I'm really struggling to get a decent shot, but I think that's probably going to be about as good as it gets. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to faff about, put in some bits and pieces on, and then what I'll probably do is just reset the camera into a different position so I can just come back and show you when it's done, because it's going to be impossible for me to get the camera angles right to show you what I'm doing. All I'm literally going to do is sort of try bits here and there and see where I like things, stick them in place, and then we'll be done. So I'll come back shortly and show you the finished article. So there we have it. That is my completed lantern. I've just put something up behind it to try and screen out some of my messy desk so you can focus on the lantern. As you can see, I've put the lantern inside the actual lantern frame. And then I've done a floral cluster down the front here using those big poinsettias that I made, a little Christmas rose, some little Christmas flowers there, some sparkly berries, some large red, they're actually stamens, but I've just used them sticking out of the cluster, some little gold ones just down the bottom here. I'd got these white glittered like fern leaves in my stash, so I popped some of those on as well, and then I've sort of done the same coming up the top, up the side of the lantern here. I've done the similar thing with the floral cluster and the white fern leaves. We've got the star, the silver star poking out on the side there. The bells, I took a little bit of Stays On just because they were really bright, sort of glittery gold, and it was just a bit too bright for me, so I just took the Timber Brown Stays On ink and just went over the bells just to knock that colour back a little bit and just make them look a little bit more vintage and in keeping with the piece. Then on my hot foiling machine, I foiled this sentiment, Making Spirits Bright. I thought that went really well with the actual lantern. And then again, I've sort of vintaged it. I heat stamped it onto cream cardstock rather than white, and then I've gone round the edge with some vintage photo, a little bit of aged mahogany, and some of the Stays On, some of that dark Timber Brown Stays On as well, just to make it look quite vintage. Then up on the top here, and get it in shot, I've done a little floral cluster on this lovely buffalo check sort of bow, which is quite sort of farmhousey, and I've used one of these beautiful flowers. There is a tutorial on my channel that shows you how to make these flowers. I just love it with the great big centre and the little crown in the middle there. I think that one's really pretty. And some of the little small poinsettias. Again, I think there is actually... in fact, I think there's a tutorial for all of these flowers on my video. There is a playlist called Flowers. They will all be in there. Some of the holly leaves. And yeah, just pop that on the top there. And I think overall it makes a really pretty ornament. It's a bit of a pain to take the lantern, the candle, well, to lift the candle up so that you can turn the candle on. It is possible, but it is a bit of a pain. So what I might do is actually just snap the top of the flame bit off in the top there, and just put a tea light, like, you know, the battery operated tea lights in the top there, because then I'll just be able to lift that out and put that in. So I might do that, and then just put some faux snow or something over the top of it to sort of cover the fact that there's a tea light in there, because that'll just make it a little bit easier to turn it on. But I really love it, even without the lantern, the candle lit. I think it is really beautiful, and a huge improvement on the tacky £2 black plastic lantern with the horrible witches that were all on the sides of the lantern. They've been screen printed on there. I just think it's a huge improvement on that, and actually is now a really beautiful ornament that I will put out year after year after year. So I hope you've enjoyed having a look at this series as I've made this lantern, as I've altered this lantern. I think that's probably about it in terms of Christmas crafting for this year. I didn't do tons. I think I need to make myself start a bit earlier next year, because I just was not on the ball this year. But hey ho, onwards and upwards. I'm going to go off now and finish off some other videos that will be coming up over the next week, and start thinking about my new collabs and things that I need to get done for the new year. So I will see you all again very soon in another crafty video. Bye for now.